Hi, this is Shupriyo, and today we are going to discuss the third theme of the Budget 2020, a caring society. And I'll also take you through the governance reforms, the financial sector reforms, and the disinvestment and the fiscal reforms that have been taken in the budget. And so I will complete the total part A of the budget in this video. So let's begin. So coming to the caring society things that Nirmala Sitharaman discussed. So she first told about the Beti Bachao Beti Padhao movement, and this has yielded tremendous results. So the gross enrollment ratio of girls across all levels of education is now higher than boys. So she mentioned a lot of percentages, but I don't think these are so much important. You can just know about the elementary level. So at elementary level, it is 94.32% enrollment for the girls, and boys are only at 89.28%. And even in the secondary and the higher secondary levels, girls have outperformed boys in their enrollment ratio. And the next thing that she mentioned is regarding the health of the mother and the child, which are closely correlated. So nutrition is extremely important because, as you know, that India suffers a lot from malnutrition cases, and because there are a lot of poor people in our country. So for this reason, the Prime Minister had launched the Poshan Abhiyan in 2017 and 18. So this would be improving the nutritional status of children between 0 to 6 years, adolescent girls, pregnant women, and lactating mothers. So you might have already read about this scheme. And she said that more than 6 lakh Anganwadi workers are equipped with smartphones to upload the nutritional status of more than 10 crore households. So the government is making these developments, a lot of developments for nutrition purposes. And the women's age of marriage. So this was a contentious issue earlier, a long time ago, and it had been increased from 15 years to 18 years in 1978 by amending the erstwhile Sharda Act of 1929. So this was amended a long time back, and this actually helped improve the women's condition in our country. And the imperatives for lowering MMR. Now, what is MMR? MMR is maternal mortality rate. So it is basically the count of the maternal deaths per 1 lakh live births. So we need to lower that, and India has made some progress on that as well. She also spoke about the issue of the age of the girl entering motherhood. So this needs to be seen in this light, and a task force will be created which will be recommending some things regarding lowering of MMR as well. And so it will be recommending in 6 months time. And she said that for nutrition related programs, the budget is allocating 35,600 crore for the financial year 2020 to 21. And another very important figure is the amount that is allocated that is specific to women only. So this is 28,600 crores, and this is a very important number that you must remember. And the next thing that the government said is that they will be looking after the manual cleaning of sewage. So basically the manual scavenging. So the government does not want any manual scavenging to be done, and you know that this has been a contentious issue for a long amount of time. And suitable technologies for removal of this manual scavenging work, they have been identified by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, and they will be trying and implementing it, so that there are some legislative and institutional changes as well, so that these people do not have to work in such bad conditions. And for the SC and the other backward classes, SC and OBCs, the government has allocated a total of 85,000 crore for financial year 2020 to 21. And in the same vein, they also mentioned that the allocation for scheduled tribes for the financial year 2020-21 stands at 53,700 crore. So let's move to the next part. The next part is about the allocation for the senior citizens. So a total amount of 9,500 crore has been allocated for senior citizens. And now we come to the culture and the tourism. So the Indian Institute of Heritage and Conservation will be set up under the Ministry of Culture, and it will have the status of a deemed university. So this is very important so that Indian culture can also have a high push, and this will actually help us in the tourism sector as well. and trained manpower is something that is missing for these disciplines, and that is why the government is trying to bring it up and set up this university. So the 5 archaeological sites will also be developed as iconic sites. So what are these iconic sites? So you must remember the names of these 5 archaeological sites. They are Rakhigiri in Haryana, Hastinapur in Uttar Pradesh, Shivsagar in Assam, Dholavira in Gujarat, and Adicharnallur in Tamil Nadu. So all these 5 places will be developed as iconic sites, and the Prime Minister also announced the recuration of the Indian Museum in Kolkata. It is the oldest museum in our country, and so the Prime Minister said that it should be renovated. And the historic old Mint building of Kolkata, in there a museum on numismatics and trade will be located. So it is a very important building, and this will help to have further push into the tourism sector. And 4 more museums will be renovated from across the country. And the final thing which is important to remember is the tribal museum of Ranchi, Jharkhand. So there we will have a tribal museum that will be set up, and the total allocation for the Ministry of Culture for 2020-21 is 3,150 crores. And another thing which is very important regarding tourism is the index, the Travel and Tourism Competitiveness Index. So India now ranks 34 in 2019, and we have moved up from rank 65 in 2014. So we have made a big jump. And the foreign exchange earnings, it grew 7.5% to 1.88 lakh crores for the period January to November 2019, from the earlier period of 1.75 lakh crore. So our forex earnings are also increasing, and it shows that tourism as a sector is booming, is actually getting developed. And for tourism promotion, the government is going to be allocating 2,500 crore rupees for the financial year. So the next thing is about the environment and the climate change. So we have already set up the International Solar Alliance in 2015, and this is extremely important because India for the first time has become a leader of these kinds of things, and this is a multilateral body, as you know. And similar to this, in September 2019, the PM has also announced the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, CDRI, with its secretariat in Delhi. So this is going to be the second such global partnership, and it will help India become a leader in the climate change activities, in combating climate change. And this will help to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. So as you know, there are 17 goals and 169 targets of the SDG. So you must understand and remember those goals. So it's going to be very important for the exams. And India has also submitted its nationally determined contribution, so NDC. So this is extremely important because each country, as per the Paris Agreement of 2015, on a best effort basis, they have to say that, okay, this is what I am going to achieve. So India has laid down many of these things that it is going to achieve by 2030. So for example, we have told that our carbon emissions are going to be reduced and as a percentage of our GDP. So I'll just put up a picture in front of you so that you can see and understand what are the important and relevant points to be noted for this. And the next thing is that the implementation will be effectively beginning on 1st January 2021. And all of these different departments and ministries will be doing it together. And this is very important, the NDCs for the Paris Agreement. And the next thing is regarding the thermal power plants. So if there are thermal power plants which have emissions above the preset norms, then they are going to be closed by the government. So the government is not going to continue to operate those high emitting power plants, high thermal emission power plants. And in large cities with a population of above 1 million, clean air is a matter of concern. So as I told you regarding this allocation, so all of the states which have these cities, a population above 1 million, and who are taking steps to deal with the clean air challenges that they are having, they will have additional grant, and the allocation for this is 4,400 crore for 2020 to 21. So this is just for the clean air in population above 1 million. And then next, it was a Tamil poem that the finance minister recited. So this is not so important. We come down to the governance reforms that were actually announced. So the government said that there will be a high impetus on faith. So people have to have faith in the government, right? So that governance can be clean, it can be corruption free, it can be policy driven, and it can be good in intent and trusting in faith. So ease of living as a goal, this is very important. The Prime Minister has said multiple times, and even the Finance Minister mentioned in her speech, that ease of living for all citizens is going to be considered. And the very important pillar for that is fairness and efficiency of tax administration. And for that, a taxpayer charter is going to be introduced. Now, this is very important because this is the first time that we are going to have a taxpayer charter, and this will allow the people to be free from any kind of harassment, so that the citizens are not harassed for tax purposes. As you know, right now there is a lot of harassment by the income tax department to many companies or individuals regarding the tax purposes. So the government wants to do away with all of those things by including a taxpayers charter. And the next thing is that and actually in the next thing she said that for Companies Act there are certain things which only incur a civil liability, but the government is going to make it a criminal liability. So this is something that is going to affect a lot of people who were actually getting tried under civil cases. So now they will be tried under just criminal cases if they are going to do any kind of tax evasion. And the government has also announced that all the non-gazetted posts in governments and public sector banks, the hiring for those things is going to be through one single recruiting agency, and this agency will be the National Recruitment Agency, the NRA. Now, I have already answered a few of your questions, and many people had a question regarding what is going to happen to IBPS, what is going to happen to this exam, that exam. So don't worry about all of those things, especially people who are worried about the RBI exam. That's going to continue. Don't worry about it. And even if this thing which has been announced, it will come, it will be a long time. It will be at least 2-3 years before it is actually in place. So you don't have to worry. All of the exams are going to go on as they are, and there is nothing to be worried about, at least. And it is going to be an independent, professional and specialist organization for conducting computer-based online common eligibility test for recruitment to non-gazetted posts. And a test center will be set up in every district, and especially in the aspirational districts which the government has actually made. And the government is also going to have a sound framework for the Contracts Act, and they are going to be strengthening this Contracts Act so that we can have a little bit of ease of doing business. And there is a growing need for Indian statistical system to meet the challenges of real-time monitoring of our increasingly complex economy. So the government wants a real-time monitoring of the economy. So the data that is generated, it should have a strong credibility. So they have proposed a new national policy on official statistics which would include latest technology including AI, and it would actually help in modernized data collection and integrated information portals and timely discussions as well. So this national policy on official statistics, it will enforce this real-time monitoring of all the statistics of our economy. And they also mentioned that India is going to host the G20 presidency in the year 2022, which is actually the 75th anniversary of our independence. And for that purpose, the government has allocated 100 crore rupees so that we can go ahead and host this extremely important event. And it will actually help us to become a very important soft power in the world, because we will be hosting all of these countries. So outlay has been made for that as well. And for the newly created union territories of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, the government has also made some allocation. So for Jammu and Kashmir, the allocation has been made at 30,757 crore, which has been given for this financial year. And for Ladakh, the amount is 5,958 crore. So these are also very important numbers. And now we come to the financial sector reforms. So the government had already approved the consolidation of 10 banks into 4 banks. And in the last few years, the government has infused about 3,50,000 crore by way of capital into public sector banks for regulatory and growth purposes. And governance reforms will be carried out in these banks so that they can be a lot more competitive. And a few of them will also be able to approach the capital markets if they want to raise some additional capital. So this is also very important. And coming to one extremely important part of the budget, the Icgc announcement. So this was a huge announcement, because as I told you earlier that the Icgc earlier for a long amount of time used to ensure only rupees 1 lakh per depositor, but now Now this is being raised to rupees 5 lakh per depositor. So per depositor per bank, 5 lakh of your rupees are going to be insured by the Icgc. Now another thing to note in this is that the banks have been complaining because this came into place, because as you know, the insurance is never free. Insurance always has a premium. So who gives the premium for Icgc? You and me don't give, right? Because we keep our money in the bank, they do not charge extra for that. However, the bank must pay a certain amount of paise for each rupee that is insured by the Icgc. So if the insurance is increased to 5 lakh, then the premiums will shoot up, and the banks were really unhappy about this. So this is something on the perspective of the banks that you must understand. And to strengthen the cooperative banks, amendments to the Banking Regulation Act are also proposed, and it will increase the professionalism and enable access to capital and governance and oversight for sound banking through the RBI. And the limit for the NBFCs to be eligible for debt recovery. Now this is very important because as you know, the SARFAESI Act is the securitization and reconstruction of financial assets and enforcement of security interest. So this is a 2002 act, and this actually helps in speedy recovery of the debt. Now the NBFCs were not able to enact any kind of things regarding this act, and so they have been brought under this ambit. So now if the NBFCs assets under management are 100 crore, then they can go ahead and enforce the SARFAESI. Earlier it used to be 500 crore limit. So 500 crore was a very high limit. And the second thing is regarding the loan size. So if the NBFC has a loan size of 50 lakh rupees, then it can go ahead and go into SARFAESI. Earlier it used to be 1 crore. So two things, from 100 crore it is increased to 500 crore, and the second thing is the loan size from 1 crore it is going down to 50 lakh. It has been decreased, not increased. It has been decreased in both the cases. So you need to understand these things. And the next thing is regarding the greater private capital. So government is always hell-bent on privatization. As you know, various kinds of privatization things have been undertaken, and they want more private capital, not only government capital, to drive our economy. And so for this purpose, the balance holding of the government of India in the IDBI bank, it will be sold off. So the private and the retail and the institutional investors, all of them can go ahead and buy a portion of this. So you understand, this is very important for the government to raise more money. And the next thing is regarding the universal pension coverage with auto enrollment. So pension coverage is being just increased so that interoperability and operation of safeguards can be made for the accumulated corpus that is there, because pensions are very important. And they are also actually trying to strengthen the PFRDI. So the PFRDI is the Pension Fund Regulatory and Development Authority of India. It regulates all the pension funds, and some amendments will be made in that act so that there can be the establishment of a pension trust by the employees other than the government. So this will actually help in enforcement of all of these things. And the Factor Regulation Act will also be amended, the Factor Regulation Act of 2011. This will enable NBFCs to extend invoice financing to the MSMEs through TREDS. So what is TREDS? It is the Trade Receivables Electronic Discount System. So this is actually operated by the RBI, and this will help them to actually extend invoice financing in a better way. And this TREDS was actually not used very well. So the government is trying so that the NBFCs can make use of it. And working capital is another thing that the NBFCs, the MSMEs actually need. So the NBFCs can actually give the working capital to the MSMEs, and even the banks can give it. So for that, they are going to introduce a scheme to provide subordinate debt for entrepreneurs of MSMEs, and this subordinate debt will be provided by banks that would count as quasi equity, and it will be fully guaranteed through the CGTMSE, the Credit Guarantee the Trust for Medium and Small Enterprises. So the government is going to increase the CGTMSE fund a little bit so that this can be covered by them. And the next thing is regarding the restructuring window for the MSMEs. So as you know, this has actually been announced in the previous days RBI monetary policy meeting, that the restructuring window, which was to end on March 31st, 2020, the government has gone ahead and asked RBI to consider extending this window till March 31st, 2021. Now, as you know, this has actually been increased to December 31st of 2020. So the RBI has gone ahead and listened to Nirmala Sitharaman, whatever she was asking it to do. And the app-based invoice financing of loans product will also be launched. So it will be totally app-based for invoice financing. And the government is doing all of these things to just help the MSME sector. It is extremely important so that they can have working capital for all of their needs. And for selected sectors such as pharmaceuticals, auto components and others, the government is going to give around 1000 crore, which will be anchored by Exim Bank together with SIDBI. So 50 crore each will be provided by SIDBI and Exim Bank, and this will actually help these selected sectors to gain access to more money. And for the next thing, it is about the deepening of the bond market. So deepening of the bond market was mentioned in the last year's budget as well, and for these things further reforms have been done. For example, specific categories of the government securities, the GSECs, will be fully opened for the non-resident investors, the NRIs. So these are already available for the individuals, the domestic investors, but now they will be open for the NRIs as well. And the limit for FPI in corporate bonds, which is currently at 9% of outstanding stock, it will be increased to 15% of outstanding stock of corporate bonds. So this is also very important. And to improve investors' confidence and expand the scope of credit default swaps, there is a mechanism for netting of financial contracts. So as I told you in the last video, the netting of financial contracts, this is something that the RBI has also actually mentioned in the Monetary Policy Committee meeting, that this netting of contracts, it will be introduced in India. These are already done by advanced economies, as I told you in the last video, and now the government wants that it is coming into India as well. And the government is also going to list a new debt ETF. So as you know that the ETFs have been performing quite well for the government, and this will consist primarily of government securities. And also the liquidity constraints of the NBFCs and HFCs. This is a major point of contention for these industries. For that, the government had formulated a partial credit guarantee scheme for the NBFCs, and to further support and provide liquidity, a mechanism would be devised, and the government will support by guaranteeing securities so floated. So this is also something that is also going to be given to the NBFCs. So the NBFC sector, which is actually struggling to get funds, it will be helped a lot in this way. And for the infrastructure financing, as you know, 103 lakh crore national infrastructure pipeline projects, so they were already announced, and I already told you about this in many videos, and 22,000 crore has already been provided for that. So this is a very important number that you need to understand. And there were some reforms announced for the IFSC, the GIFT City, and the GIFT IFSC has approved free trade zones for housing vaults, and this is also something that you need to remember. And the GIFT City will be setting up an international bullion exchange. So this is for the gold, and it will be an additional option for trade by global market participants, and this is something that is going to help India excel in the global markets as well. And the rupee derivatives have been permitted to be traded in the GIFT City in Gujarat, and as you know that the derivatives industry is taking off because of this, and the GIFT City has been a major focus. So the next thing is the LIC IPO. Now this was a huge news, and LIC IPO, I have already made a video on it. If you have not seen it, just check it out up top. And this is actually a very important announcement, because the government has increased the disinvestment target as well to 2.1 lakh crore for the next financial year, and a major part of that money is going to be acquired by the government by disinvesting LIC. So LIC is not going to be privatized, as I told you, but it is actually going to be a little bit of it is going to be sold off so that the government can gain some money, and stake selling will actually help in disinvestment target of the government as well. So the fiscal management, we come to the fiscal management part, and for the fiscal management, as you know that the 15th Finance Commission, it has given its first report to the government, and the final report will be given by the end of this year, and it will be from the 5 years beginning 2020-21. So this 15th Finance Commission report, it's very important. It's extremely crucial for RBI, for SEBI, for NABARD exams, and all of the other exams, banking exams as well. So we need to go through it once it comes out. And the final thing is regarding this, the GST compensation fund balances. So this is actually the compensation fund for the states. So the states which were actually losing revenue due to the GST implementation, they will be compensated. So out of the collection of the years 2016 and 17, 2017 and 2017-18, 2 installments will be taken and they will be paid out. So that was all about this thing. And the government said that the procedures that have been done for the fiscal numbers, it has been compliant with the FRBM Act. And the next thing is regarding the receipts that are going to be acquired by the government. So the government in the financial year 2020-21 is going to be getting receipts of 22.46 lakh crore. This is a very important number to remember, and the level of expenditure has been kept at 30.42 lakh crore rupees. So these two figures are very important. And the fiscal deficit that we were talking about, so regarding the fiscal deficit, you must remember that we have an act, the FRBM Act. So the government has pegged the fiscal deficit at 3.8% in 2019-20, and for the next year, the 2021 year, we are getting a target of 3.5%. Now you have to remember that in the last budget, what they had done, they had told that financial year 2019-20 will be having 3.3% and the next year will be 3%. However, the thing is that FRBM Act, there is a certain section 4.2 of FRBM Act. So this is a very important section, and you must remember this section. This section says that you can have a deviation of 0.5% which will be applicable to your fiscal deficit target. So for example, if you planned for 3.3%, so you can get a little bit of error of 0.5% and you can go to 3.8%. So this escape clause of the FRBM Act, it was triggered by the government in this budget, and so they brought down the estimate from 3.3% to 3.8%. And why am I saying brought down? Because the percentage, if it increases, it means that it is a worse kind of a thing. So our fiscal situation worsens if the percentage increases, because this is a percentage of GDP. So 3.8% of GDP is the fiscal deficit. The next part is dealing with the medium term fiscal strategy statement. So this is something that the government is going to present in the parliament, and they are going to state how they are going to reach the correct fiscal path, the fiscal numbers. So fiscal consolidation, this is extremely important, because the FRBM Act, it actually allows us to go on a path of fiscal consolidation so that the government does not overspend. And the net market borrowings for the year 2019-20 would be 4.99 lakh crore, and for the year 2020-21 it would be 5.36 lakh crore. And a good part of the borrowing for the financial year 2020-21 will go towards capital expenditure, because the government had scaled it up by more than 21%. So this is all about the fiscal numbers, and this actually ends our part A of the budget. So only part B is left. I will try to complete it in one more video. So there is only one final video left. I know that the budget series is going on for a long time, but bear with me. These are very important for your exams. So I hope that you enjoyed this session. Please like this video if you liked it, and please subscribe if you haven't already. And if you like this video, please share it with your friends, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.